Okay, this episode is going to be about Columbus. We are going to discuss Columbus's what he did, why he did it, why he matters in history, and a little bit of current ideas about him. I remember when I was in junior college, I walked into class. I think it was on Columbus Day, and this would have been back in 2002, and there was a big banner up that said Columbus was a terrorist, right? Some kids, I'm assuming some kids had put that up. I'm sure with permission though, because nobody took it down. And I just thought, okay, maybe, but wow, that's a pretty bold statement. And that was my first one. I realized there's not a lot of good history going on. There's not a lot of even-handed analysis going on. There's just hysteria and one-sided screaming. So we're going to talk, about what Columbus did, why he's important, and all that kind of stuff. So first off, Columbus was not trying to prove that the Earth was round. Okay, everybody knew the Earth was round. I think this comes from some poem back in the 1800s. No. Okay? Everyone knew the Earth was round. He wasn't trying to prove the Earth was round. Nobody was arguing with him about that. What he was trying to prove, or he really just wanted to use this so that he could go on his voyage. He had this idea that the Earth was a lot smaller than it actually is. The people at the time, they've known since Greek times how big around the Earth was. And he thought that it was smaller. So what they thought was there was a big ocean where the Americas are today. So you remove the Americas, and their conception of the world was just straight ocean from, West Africa and Spain all the way over to wherever Japan and China was. They didn't even know really what that looked like. The only thing they knew was Marco Polo, right? Marco Polo brought a book back, and he explained about China. He lived there for a while. And when he lived there, the Mongols were in charge. And so he kept writing about the land of the Grand Khan, right? Khan, Khan, not Khan like Con. And that's all they knew about China. So he goes to the princes of Western Europe who are starting to explore at this time. And he tries to convince them to let him explore out to the west. And all the educated people said, you will die halfway across. There's no fresh water. You'll die. And he said, no. Where you think I'll die, that's actually where China is. It's actually way closer than you think, because I know that the Earth's smaller round than it is. Now, he had this scholar that he found who had these charts. And so he wasn't just making this up. He thought this was real. He was wrong, but that's why he kept pushing this. And that's why no one else was doing it, because they all knew how big around the Earth was, and they knew you couldn't make it. So he finally convinces the king and queen of Spain, who had just kicked the Moors out of Spain, and it's 1492, and so they say, well, let's give him a shot. Maybe he'll find the something like the Azores, some islands out in the Atlantic. Who knows what he'll find? Give him a shot. What do we got to lose? So they give him 3 boats, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, and he sets sail. And the story goes that they're sailing for a long time, and everybody thinks, well, we're just going to sail for a while and then come back. Or we'll sail for too long and we won't make it back and we'll all die. No one thought they were going to fall off the edge of the earth. Okay? Maybe they thought there was storms or something that might, something treacherous out there. But the falling off the earth bit, no, nobody was thinking that. Maybe one of the sailors believed in something mythical, but no. So get this idea in your head that nobody in the Americas knew that the old world was there, and nobody in the old world knew that the Americas were there. So it's not like the Americans were over in the Americas looking down on the old world. Oh, we're in this Shangri-La over here and we're keeping it a secret. No, neither side knew that either side was there. Columbus was a great mariner. Some people say, oh, he got lost, he was bumbling, he didn't know what he was doing. No, he made it straight across and made it straight back. He was an excellent mariner, one of the best explorers of the age. And so the story goes, I'll get back to the story. He says, give me 3 more days, because his guys are starting to say, hey, we're going to turn around. This is crazy. We're all going to die. So he says, give me 3 more days. And the story goes, on the morning of the 3rd day, they sight land. And they sight an island in the Bahamas. He names it San Salvador. You can go find it on the map. I guess the map I saw, it's still named that today. I don't know if we know the exact beach, but it's that small island. And so he thinks, hey, everyone else was wrong. I was right. I made it to China. I made it. So he goes and explores around and finds some other islands. He's really close to Florida. He just, for some reason, doesn't find it. He goes south and goes down to Cuba and Haiti and all that. Then he goes back and tells everybody, I found something. And he thinks for a long time that he has found China and that he's just in the islands around China, because that's where they all wanted to go. They all wanted to get to the riches in Asia. They wanted a water trade route to Asia. And so that's what the expedition was for. So he needs to go back and prove to the monarchs who sponsored him, okay, we'll send him back. If it's just some islands out in the Atlantic somewhere that aren't worth much, he doesn't have a lot to show. So that's his motivation. I think that his voyage, because what he did is he connected both sides of the world permanently. Yeah, there were some Vikings who made it over to Canada, okay, but they set up shop there, and we have some ruins there that I guess they've dug them up. But they didn't go back and tell everybody, hey, we found this new continent. He went back and said, hey, come send people over and start colonizing, start settling this, start taking it over. And that permanently connected both sides of the world. I've heard people say there is no world history until Columbus. There's old world history and there's the history of the Americas, but it's not connected until that. That is incredibly important. I think it's in the top 5 events in world history, Columbus. So, love him or hate him, whatever, he did something that's really important. I hesitate to call it an accomplishment because the Native Americans did not benefit from this at all. So there's a thing that we have come to call the Columbian Exchange, and that is the movement of animals, foods, and diseases between the New World and the between the Old World and the Americas. Most devastating was Old World diseases coming to the Americas. They estimate now that maybe 80 million Native Americans were killed by disease after the arrival of Europeans. And this is over, a period of time, but that's an incredible number. They used to think it was more like 8 million total people in the Americas when Columbus arrives. Now they think it was closer to 100 million. And none of them had been exposed to these diseases. Smallpox, the plague, lots of diseases. And it's a virgin population. They come over, these diseases run rampant, and there's nothing to stop them. There's no resistance to them. And that's really what devastates the Americans. It would have been more like when Europeans went over to China and India. They didn't make very many inroads there, especially at the beginning. I know the British took over India, but these populations were enormous and it was hard to take them over. The populations were somewhat comparable, of the empires anyway, in the Americas, but these diseases and the devastation they caused aided the Spanish and the Portuguese in toppling the empires and societies that were there. So, Columbus, hero or villain, I think neither. Okay, he's an explorer. He's a product of his age. There's a thing in history called presentism, which is a historical mistake, right? Where we take our current values and what's acceptable in our current world and apply it to people in history and judge them through that lens. And you can do that. That is true. We should have objective, at least, I don't know, truth, values, whatever, and say, yeah, that's wrong. That's a bad thing to do. But we also need to judge them through their own time. And well, what were the circumstances they were in? What was actually feasible for them to do? What did other people do? What was normal at the time? And so if you judge him by his time, he's just kind of a average, mostly explorer. Maybe you could call him a conquistador a little, but that's not the classical definition of a conquistador. He's just an explorer who tried to get lands for himself and for Spain. Yes, he did bad things. In context, compared to his time, it was just stuff that all people did. It was a brutal time. It's brutal. And so not to excuse it, but not to turn him into some kind of singular villain either. I think the problem is we've had this backlash because people try to make him a hero and make him some kind of saint, and then they go find these things that he did in the course of colonizing, and they say, well, he can't be a hero. So yeah, whatever. He's probably not a hero, but I don't think he's as big of a villain as everybody tries to portray him as either. He's a complicated character. It's a complicated time. He did something that's incredibly important. He's an impressive figure. He's an impressive sailor and explorer, and changed world history more than most historical figures you hear about. Much of the understanding I have of this topic I got from a book called Columbus: The Four Voyages by Lawrence Burgeen. It's an excellent book. And thank you for listening.